Now, talking of marrying Chewbacca, the issue that has been in the British press of late, and I think maybe of interest to our American listeners, is this gay marriage thing. Now, can I be honest with you, Douglas? I don't totally understand what this is all about, but let me give you what I think it's about, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Okay?
Right.
Now, as I understand it, homosexual couples have, for some time now, had exactly the same rights under the law as heterosexual couples, in as much as when one partner dies, the inheritance terms are the same. They have the same tax advantages, everything. The only thing that is being changed here, and I believe this is an area where politicians have no business messing, is that there seems to be some new arrangement whereby churches are now to be compelled or permitted, or I prefer the term compelled, to marry gay men gay couples as well as heterosexual ones. Is that right, or am I mischaracterizing it?
You are mischaracterizing it,
Okay.
alas. First of all, certainly not compelled. The difference is this. Civil partnerships legislation came in under New Labour, and you're right, it gave gay couples the same protections as heterosexual couples.
Which I'm cool with, by the way, as you know, a kind of honorary gay man with lots of gay friends. I'm cool with that bit. Okay, carry on.
And however, it was not exactly equal marriage, and the argument is that, and I agree with this, that the government is doing, is that in civil matters, the state should make no distinction. The state should seek to, as it were, encourage commitment and thus to encourage civil marriage. But no, churches and others actually have an opt-out from this, which is in the legislation, that they will not be compelled to do any such thing. And I wrote a piece some time ago in The Spectator about this, saying that it would be that the state should not take a view on the sex or sexuality of people who want to marry. That is certainly something that churches and religions can take a view on, but the state doesn't need to. That there should be full equality in civil marriage, and that if the religions want to join in, as it were, then they can, and if they don't want to, then they don't have to. And of
Well, I
course,
agree with you there. So why is there so much contention about this then?
there's a lot of contention for several reasons. The main one is that people have mischaracterized it and have said, this will be something which forces, gays are going to immediately go down to the local mosque, and the local mosque's going to have to marry them in the eyes of Allah. That really isn't going to happen.
Because obviously under Islam, they will be buried under walls, won't they, or cast off a high rock? Those are the traditional.
It would certainly put a pall over the wedding dinner.
It would definitely.
Cast a pall over the celebrations.
Yeah.
But no, the point is that the government and others were worried about this, and particularly the churches and religions were worried about it because they thought they'd be compelled. Why would they be compelled in any way? It would only be because some people may possibly in the future go to the European Court of Human Rights. Well, as I always say, if you have to continually change your laws to get around the possibility of the European Court of Human Rights buggering everything up, then you ought to just remove yourself from the remit of the European Court of Human Rights. But anyhow, the fact is the government has gone through this. They have managed to work into the legislation something that means that people can't take their local mosque or synagogue or church or anything else to the European Court of Human Rights. As long as the religions are protected, I think this is absolutely fine. However, it is contentious because so many of the Conservative Party are against it, and almost half the parliamentary party rebelled the other night. I think there is some legitimacy from those people who are aggrieved about this. As I say, I disagree with them on on it. But I think there's some reason why they are aggrieved. Basically, they say this wasn't in the manifesto of any political party. They say it particularly wasn't in the manifesto of the Conservative Party. And there is a feeling, and it may be true, that David Cameron wants to pick a fight with the parliamentary party and indeed the grassroots. And the thinking about this goes something along the following lines. That David Cameron has what they might regard as the Clause 4 moment. The Clause 4, you'll remember, was the moment when Tony Blair stood up to the old Labour part of the Labour Party and trounced them and entered everyone into the sunlit uplands of New Labour. The point is that David Cameron wanted to have, and has for some time, a Clause 4-like moment when he could cast aside the ancient darkness of the Conservative Party and lead them to new Toryism. And the fact is that if that is what he's doing at the moment, he's done it very cack-handedly. He'd wanted something like this some years ago. I mean, it was often pointed out when David Cameron became leader in 2005 that he wanted what he was really after, let's be frank, what David Cameron really wanted was for a backbench Conservative MP to tell a racist joke. That was his absolute dream. He wanted a backbench MP to tell a racist joke so that he could
then sack him. He
could sack him or her. He could get them thrown out of the party. Then he could make a big stand. This is totally intolerable. He could arrange for them to be hanged. And that was going to be the moment. But
he did, Douglas, he did almost do that as well. Do you remember the Patrick Mercer?
I'm so glad you cite that, because you're the only other person who still cites this. Absolutely. He tried to do this with a very distinguished, decent ex-military man, Patrick Mercer, who didn't make a racist comment, but David Cameron sacked him before he became Prime Minister, sacked him from his shadow ministerial post because David Cameron thought it was possible that he may have said something racist, which he hadn't.
Remind us what he actually said, because this was an ex-army officer who was talking about the relationship between the races within his in the Guards, wasn't it? I think
he was talking about the sort of stuff that goes on in the army and went on in his day. And he said, Patrick Mercer said, it was horrible, but, the language people used to use, in those days it was different from it is now. He said, if you were doing an exercise and had to climb over a wall, you'd shout, "Get over that wall, you fat bastard," or, "Get over the wall, you ginger bastard," or "Get over the wall, you black bastard." And he was obviously saying, as he feels, and as anyone would feel, that was horrible. But that people said it at the time, and he was reporting it as comment. But David Cameron heard about this and immediately sacked him. So there is no place in the Conservative Party for racism. Well, he wasn't being racist. He was saying something that used to happen in the past and was deploring it, rightly deploring it. But David Cameron was so desperate to get that prize. Now, I mean, I think that there is definitely some legitimacy in those people who say he wasn't able to really sort of do that grandstanding terribly well. There had to be another modernizing thing that he did grandstanding over, and that it's become gay marriage. I don't know. As I say, I'm in favour of the policy, but I think that there is a legitimate sense of grievance in the party of people who think this has all come along very suddenly, and that he is picking a fight with the party. It ought to be said, by the way, in conclusion about this, is that it is undoubtedly rather unpopular among the Conservative Party's grassroots.